Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water, water.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak!
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room.
Oh, Paul the Waterman is in charge of our intro every week. Welcome to Water Talk. My name is Scott Watley. I normally introduce myself as the host, but I'm not quite sure I'm in control of our openings here anymore. But Paul the Waterman joins us from Water Pros. How are you?
Don't talk back.
Don't talk about it. Just follow instructions.
How you doing today?
Good, man. How was your week?
It was wonderful. It was great. I want to say a big howdy and a thank you. We have a customer or listener that we helped out this week, and he did, what we suggested, and I'm very grateful. He did his own research.
Yeah, you called me about that, and you said, and he's been listening a while.
He's been listening for a while, and so, one of the things that I want to say thank you to is when people take it seriously. And his name is Russ, so thanks, Russ. We appreciate your business.
Russ, we appreciate it.
In Eaton, Colorado.
All right.
And so he's got a beautiful a Ford truck that he's putting back together. And so it's something that I think is like a 76 or 78. Kind of remind me when I was a kid, we had those driving around in, Sterling, Rock Falls, Illinois. It's just gorgeous. He's got a great dog.
Really? You know what's
Really
so
be
unique about trucks now? When you see just like a single cab truck, it's like, how did people ever drive those or fit in them? I mean, we're so used to these crew cabs now.
Well, not only that, but you didn't have the headrest. Mm-hmm. So if you're driving back, they had the split, the window that opened up, right? And so how'd we survive? And nobody used a seatbelt in those trucks back then.
Dude, we used to lay in the back window, because
right.
you're dirty.
So I don't know how we did it.
Russ, we appreciate you listening.
Yes,
sure.
Thank you very, very much. One of the things that I want to get into today is kind of like a recap of everything that we discussed and covered for a little over a year now, right?
Yeah.
Of doing our Water Talk show, and one of the things too is I'm gonna quiz you today.
All right.
I'm gonna put you on the hot seat.
Don't embarrass me now.
No, I got me. So, okay, so we're gonna start this out. It's 10 questions, and some of them are true or false, multiple choice. But the first one is, do you remember what hard water is? What makes up hard water?
I know I had it.
That's right, you had it.
Yeah, but no longer.
Do you know what the definition of hard water is?
What would that be?
It's called calcium carbonate.
Calcium carbonate.
Yeah, write that down.
I'll
Calcium
that
carbonate.
All right.
Okay. So then, do you know what the technical term for the detergent that's used in a water softener?
No, sir. I'm gonna see. I know the answer. I'm gonna put the spotlight on you. You're the expert.
Okay, it's sodium chloride.
Okay.
Sodium chloride is the detergent. Now, do you understand what happens with the ion exchange process, right? When the water softener removes one element and exchanges it for another element. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
So we got calcium carbonate, and then we have sodium chloride. So what water softening resin does, Scott, is it grabs the hardness as a liquid before it oxidizes, before it turns to that scale. Okay? So think of a resin bead has its own little gravity. Mm-hmm. as water runs through it, okay, and then there's the hardness molecule, and the resin attaches that, and it brings it right to its surface. Okay. Based on how hard your water is, the size of your home determines the size of the water softener. So then that determines how many gallons of water that the water softener can filter before it says, "Hey, I'm full. I need to take a bath."
Right.
Okay. So the water softener makes its own detergent. So it takes water with the water softening salt, and that's sodium chloride.
Okay.
Okay. So the saline solution, I like to call it, as it runs through the resin, so then what happens? The resin is getting rinsed in a saline bath, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. It releases the hardness and grabs onto a sodium molecule. So what goes down the drain during the backwashing process is the calcium and the chloride. So the sodium chloride separates, the calcium chloride separates, and so the calcium chloride go down the drain, and then what then comes out of your faucet is sodium carbonate, which is baking soda. Now, before you put in the reverse osmosis, did you ever drink the water just strictly from the kitchen's faucet?
We never did.
Never did.
I mean, in 20 years, dude.
Never did. So the reverse. Okay. So because the reason I'm asking
And
is,
so I'm being honest about that because I really don't have anything to compare it to. I just know first time, we did, man, it just wasn't good. And from then on, we bought bottled water.
Gotcha. So the water softener, a lot of people don't notice a taste difference, but then water really shouldn't have a taste. And if it does have a taste, it's the minerals in the water. Okay, here's your next question. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Do the minerals, the hardness minerals in the water, are they a benefit to the human body?
No.
No, correct. Okay. Put that down as technically the first right answer.
Okay. I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we learned that from remember that doctor that was out of wrote that book. And he was from Nebraska. I think it was Dr. Bannock, right? Mm-hmm. So water hardness is an inorganic, which our body does not absorb anything that's inorganic.
Right.
So, to a multiple choice question, can hard water cause kidney stones, gallstones, glaucoma, or all of the above or none of the above?
All the above and much more.
Absolutely correct.
To be honest.
There you go. Yep, that's right. So we take the minerals out of the water, and then water basically, what happens? It's H2O with no inorganic minerals, and our body can absorb it. And then the next thing we want to do after that is we add the reverse osmosis. And the reverse osmosis is nanofiltration. So when you feed the reverse osmosis soft water, what we're doing then is allowing the reverse osmosis to remove pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. Other elements that we don't want, the total chlorine content, the PFAS.
Right.
Okay. So you were kind enough to bring in this information sheet, and I really think it's wonderful. And because your pronunciation of certain tough words are better than mine.
I don't know about that, but this is the most popular. When you ask people about what PFAS is, what the initials people hear the most.
Right. Forever chemicals. And so, perfluor. How do you say that word again?
Perfluoroalkyl.
Yes. All right. Pronounce those other. Go ahead. You read the first. Read that.
Perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances.
Which makes up PFAS.
PFAS, yeah,
That's
which
right.
we'll just go with PFAS from here on out.
Okay, but no, hold it. We started out, when we started this, how many chemicals?
Oh, just a few things.
Right, there's like 4.
Yeah.
And now where are we at? How many chemicals make up the PFAS family now?
Mm-hmm. A few hundred.
192. Yeah. And then when we started, it was a range around 17 parts per trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And now they want it down to 4 parts per trillion. And then you saw an article that you helped us out with that said, hey, really, you want none.
Yeah.
So the point is, you know how small a part per trillion is?
Very small.
So it's safe to say that it doesn't take a large number to have a contaminant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we have to pay attention to. See, a while back, we were talking to a customer in Highlands Ranch that lived and worked in Texas, and I think she worked for like a school district. And one of the things they knew back then was chemical contamination in water. But she said, "Yeah, but it's so small, it's not going to do anything." And I said, that's a great point. That's what everybody thought. It was so small, it's not going to do anything. But then they realized that small amount of contamination, it does a lot. Mm-hmm. To the point where everybody now has some form of PFAS contamination, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over.
And the PFAS, just to give the technical term here, it's a family of toxic chemicals that accumulate in the environment and living organisms, earning them the nickname forever chemicals.
They don't go away. So what they are is they're chemicals that are like a water repellent. And they're really good. And so the problem is that these contaminants got bind back together like mercury does. Remember, separating mercury? Mm-hmm. And then you get it close and then it forms right back together. So that's what these contamination is. These chemicals form right back together. Instead of staying separated or diluted, they form back together. So, the PFAS are linked to the following adverse and alarming health effects: thyroid disease. Can you imagine high cholesterol?
I know. And you look how many people are on
cholesterol medication.
You wonder why.
That's a separate topic. You're right. Heart and cardiovascular issues, ulcer, colitis. Colitis is horrible. Liver damage, liver tumors, kidney and testicular cancer, weakened immune systems, irritable bowel syndromes, hormone imbalance, DNA damage, and increased risk, severity of COVID-19 symptoms. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
I didn't either till I printed that out.
Right there, yeah. That's probably what happened to our poor president. We got, drank bad water in the COVID systems.
Exactly. Seriously, I think over these next 5 to 10 years, they're going to look back and see all these health things. Again, we've mentioned our cardiologist friend that was on a 9 News story, and still trying to get him on, by the way. Talked about, even in surgeries and different things, they're seeing microplastics in the human body, man.
Well, not only that, but microplastics and nanoplastics all over reproductive organs. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in every aspect of the human reproductive, system, from male reproductive to female reproductive. It's all over. My fear is that we're going to have a birth defect linked to microplastics. Even maybe a miscarriage because of microplastics. And then here, if you have the PFAS or forever chemicals, it just said DNA damage. I mean, look at the triple whammies we're having right here. The triple whammies is pharmaceuticals in the water. That's the other issue. I mean, holy cow! So we got PFAS, microplastics, pharmaceuticals, and we're talking about the possibility of drinking your water and having DNA damage for the PFAS, right? Damage caused by excessive hormones in the water supply, pharmaceuticals, and then the microplastics affecting the reproductive organs.
Right.
That's a triple whammy right there. Mm-hmm. Now, back to PFAS, we also, found information on the internet that we shared with everybody where there were 2 farms, one in Michigan and one in Texas, where the waste treatment plants. I don't know if anybody out there was aware of this, but what happens with the human waste that they remove at waste treatment plants? They sell that for fertilizer. But now that fertilizer is highly contaminated with PFAS. And so 2 farms in Texas and, again, one in Michigan purchased the human waste for fertilizer.
Right.
And contaminated their hay fields, which in return contaminated their cattle.
Sure.
So now what are we going to do with human waste if we can't use it for fertilizer because of the high levels of PFAS? Mm-hmm. Are they going to burn it, incinerate it, and is that going to be released? The PFAS is going to be released in the air.
Yep. Hey, here's the thing. We can help you out with all this. Simple call to Water Pros, 303-862-5554. A few specials we're doing. Number 1, Paul will come out and do a free in-home water test for you. If you've got a current system, he'll give you a system checkup just to see if it's doing what it's supposed to do or what you were told it was going to do.
So I want to continue that RO sale for our listeners. They have to call me up and say, hey, we heard your radio show. We heard Water Talk. We want to take advantage of the $1,100 reverse osmosis.
And that's normally $1,500,
Yeah,
$1,495.
$1,495.
All right.
That's right.
And that was a good deal there. So I'm telling you, that's some great extra few $100 there to help you out. But you got to make the call, 303-862-5554. We'll be right back.
Thinking about refinancing to save money, just waiting for the rates to come down? Do you need some relief? Take AIM, Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Want to save $700 to $1,000 a month? Get a 30-year fix at 5.625. Pay off $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in high-interest card credit debt, and give yourself some breathing room. We offer many different loan programs that will save you hundreds per month. Take AIM, 720-895-0500. Thinking about purchasing a new home, but rates are too high? When the rates do come down, will you be ready? Where does the rate need to be for you to buy your next home? Let us help get you ready by maximizing your credit score and increasing your buying power. Take AIM, 720-895-0500. Your locally owned and operated mortgage lender in Colorado for over 23 years. 720-895-0500. That's 720-895-0500. 740 FICO, 80% loan to value, $400,000 FHA loan. 6.507 APR, NMLS 217147, regulated by DORA, equal credit lender, and rates are subject to change.
It's summertime and the temperatures are warming up, but let me tell you about the super hot deals happening right now at the Outdoorsman's Attic. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and if you're looking for huge savings on hunting, fishing, and camping gear, go to 2650 West Hampden and visit our friends at the Outdoorsman's Attic. You'll also find great selection of guns and ammo as well as gunsmithing services. If you have some hunting and fishing and camping gear and you're just not using it anymore, turn it into cash at the Outdoorsman's Attic. Once again, 2650 West Hampden in Sheridan. It's Colorado's greatest outdoor consignment store. And tell them Scott sent you.
At Roof Savers Colorado, we are about more than roofs. We are about helping you make the best decisions with the right information. Being a homeowner isn't getting any easier or cheaper, and neither is getting your roof the solution it needs. Deductibles are going through the roof, and with every passing year, insurance covers less than the one before. Due to a record amount of hailstorms recently, insurance companies have started limiting your coverage and pulling out of states entirely. We know the industry. With over 3,000 roofs under our belts and 23 years of experience, Dave Hart and his team are ready to complete a free roof inspection and discuss the option that is best for you. Don't wait. Policy renewals are increasing by as much as 50%. Now is the time to get the solution you need. Call Roof Savers Colorado today at 303-710-6916 or go to roofsaversco.com. That's 303-710-6916 or go to roofsaversco.com to schedule your free inspection and start saving your roof today.
560 KLZ, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. My name is Scott Watley. Paul Dowding is with us, the owner of Water Pros. Once again, that number. Take advantage of that special. I'm telling you, we did it just a few weeks back, and man, we love our water. I actually took some up to our church, has a youth camp during the summer. I actually took some up there to a friend of mine yesterday because I noticed him putting some powder type stuff Paul in his water just because he hates the taste of his water. He's from Idaho, and he's just got used to that. So no matter where he goes now, he just pours that powder in there. I'll find out what that was. But anyway, I took him a jug, man, a nice cold, big old glass bottle, man, of our water, and he wants to get it now in Idaho. So we got to make a road trip.
I tell you, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than, reverse osmosis water, cold, and then those clear ice cubes. Yeah, delicious. Absolutely.
We were talking real quick before we came on air here, but a little off topic. But you cannot make up in a million years what's happened in our country here over these last few weeks of just, it's unbelievable.
No, we have to pay attention. I mean, what's going on is we had an anointing of one candidate that, what I didn't understand, and I was talking to my wife about this, is that they basically blacked out the primary process. No one can run but Biden, is what they did. Robert Kennedy wanted to run. They wouldn't let him. So I'll be very candid. If Robert Kennedy, had any momentum at all, I'd seriously look at him as a candidate. I like what he has to say. He's kind of an old school Democrat. But with Biden, they closed the primary. So then they decided, for whatever reason, to have an early primary, earlier than any other, debate, earlier than any other debate, and he was exposed. Just think, if they wouldn't have had that debate, would we be talking about this now?
Probably not, because that did irreparable damage.
It did. Trump reached out to Robert Kennedy, and that video was released, and it was smart because Kennedy's got a lot of good ideas. And Trump, saw that. Kennedy is old school Democrat that came from, his father and his uncle. His uncle was president, his father was assassinated, his uncle was assassinated. And now we're in a situation, to be very candid with you, is that now they're trying to, the media and the people on the left and the web are trying to rewrite history and say that, Kamala was not the border czar. Mm-hmm. And so I say this. This is scary when they're trying to force a candidate on a certain political party, and then now what's scary is because they're basically trying to rewrite history. And so if that's not old school communism, Russia, the USSR, what is it?
I know. It's something else. These next few months are going to be very interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
We all have to pay attention. We all, another thing too, Scott, I mentioned this before, we really need to pray. Mm-hmm. It's heartwarming, when you talk about your Bible camp and you showed photographs of all the young kids out there and they go, a week without their cell phone, and I don't think my granddaughter could do that.
Yeah, you lost me there. Yeah,
it's like a week without, internet and an iPad or a cell phone. I don't think that would happen.
Oh, no.
But, it's good and learn about, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and God and values. That's what we have to get back to.
Absolutely.
Because, what you saw out there the other day, when Benjamin Netanyahu, and we'll leave it at this, when he was speaking and they came in D.C. and they basically tore down the American flag, they set it on fire, they raised a Palestinian flag, they were desecrating our monuments, and that's not how to do it.
No, I'll tell you, that was sickening too. Oh.
So anyway,
All right, we're talking about PFAS if you're just joining us. And again, that's one of the most popular terms you will see. But I hope you'll do what Paul mentioned that Russ did, a listener that has been listening to our show for quite a while and just had Paul out this last week. But Russ told Paul, hey, he said, kind of followed up on what you guys were saying and did his own research. And we were happy to report, found out exactly what we were saying was very truthful for him.
Everything we talk about is on the internet. Everything we talk about, all the information we get is there. One of the things that, go back to real quick about the PFAS, the forever chemicals, when they started out there was 4, and now we're up to 192, and who knows, or probably the PFAS chemical contamination has probably increased from then. But at the 4 part per trillion aspect on top of that, so now, we got to look at that chemical can cause DNA, damage. And then we have the pharmaceuticals, we have the estrogen, we have the puberty blockers. See, the other thing, Scott, I'm concerned about is that they're not doing an in-depth test of pharmaceutical contamination in our drinking water, because I believe in my heart the reason why is they're going to find polluted by hormones, by estrogen, by puberty blockers. Puberty blockers, I've done some research, that's the sterilization. Once you take a puberty blocker, you're sterilized. You can't undo the effects of that. So once, you feed that to a young person, bam, that's it. No going back. And I think it's just a tremendous disservice. Right. Can you imagine what happened back in the day when we were growing up and we had, young girls, she's a tomboy. And then, eventually, became the homecoming queen. But my point, is they take things way to the wokeness anyway. So when you get pharmaceuticals in our water supply, I really truly believe that's why the studies are probably done, but they're not being released because of that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then because the outrage it would occur, they're trying to protect a minority. I think the outrage of certain people, taking this substance, because when your body takes something that it looks as a foreign substance, your body does everything it can to get rid of it. So that's why when you take certain medication, the doctor's going to want you to go in and get your kidneys and liver function tested to make sure that the medication you're taking doesn't damage those two organs.
Yep.
Okay. Or they also say, hey, drink a lot of water, flush out your body, drink a lot of fluids. Okay. Now in this situation, we have the forever chemicals, we have the nano, the microplastics, we have the pharmaceuticals. Those are the three big whammies that are affecting our health right now. And the pharmaceuticals also are antibiotics that's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the global contamination. So everything we're talking about is in every aspect of our life.
Right. Look on this PFAS here. One thing I wanted to point out too. It said at this time, cancer-linked PFAS are legally allowed to pollute public drinking water supplies in the United States. Testing for these chemicals is not required, nor is removal. Yet PFAS have been detected in all 50 states, and experts estimate 200 million Americans drink and use tap water contaminated with toxic PFAS daily. Daily.
I think when you have PFAS that are at a concentration level that can't, all right, so the human waste that's removed from a septic system or a sewage plant, we should say, that was sold for fertilizer at levels the PFAS basically contaminated, 2 farms in a sense, that should tell you in itself, the concentration levels, where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that. And here's the other thing. Think about going forward. With PFAS contamination, the Supreme Court, it was the Chevron rule, right? And so I think what that means is that government agencies can't make laws. So I think Congress is going to have to get involved, because then these new EPA standards that they passed, EPA said, okay, these are new guidelines you're going to have to basically follow. Does that mean that Congress is going to have to get together and enact laws that make this enforceable?
Mm-hmm.
Because they basically, everybody, the Chevron Act, to my understanding, was what courts followed, thinking that government agencies were non-elected officials could convert policy that basically became law. And then the second thing that I saw during the Supreme Court said is like, hey, if you're an agency and you're going to want to fine somebody a monetary fine, they have a right to a jury trial. And so, that's the other thing, which I think is good, because a lot of these agencies who are people who are appointed officials, they don't answer to the people. And I think that's another, we have to slow down and think about this, And somebody said this, and I think this is something that is absolutely lost in today's world, is that government, they're serving on behalf of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a privilege for them to serve the American people. That's it. It's not the American people doesn't serve the government.
Yep.
And that's the thing that we really have to pay attention to. So again, nobody, local elections, I don't think have really started, kicking off yet. Pretty soon, probably around September, we'll start seeing the ads on television. But I don't see anybody, right now talking about, the water quality, water conservation is something that we use so we don't run out of water. But we're not talking, the other aspect of, protect the water itself as a resource.
No, you're right. And last thing on here, on June 15th of 2022, it's not too far back, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, released an alarming advisory warning that several PFAS are far more toxic than previously thought and pose a severe, now this is their terms, not ours, pose severe health risk in water even at tiny, near zero levels. We've summarized that advisory here, and it says, and hey, I just did a Biden thing. I just read some notes that were the advisory shrunk existing tap water recommendations to 2 specific PFAS, PFOA and PFOS, to almost 0.
Well, that's what we came up.
Right.
So when we all started this, 17 parts per trillion down to 4 parts per trillion, and now they're saying, hey, it has to be 0. But the point is that what you just read states that the contamination level doesn't have to be great or be a large number for it to be a concern.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, if you live in town and you're drinking, water that's provided to you from a water district, the water district, that's another thing. Think how these have evolved. So you had each new community, right? They create a water district to govern that community. And the water district, 9 times out of 10 are appointed officials by the city government. And so, they're not elected officials. And then they take, the EPA, and the water quality report. See, the water quality report, we brought that up. These municipalities are supposed to publish a water quality report, but how in-depth is the water quality report? And every water quality report I read doesn't say anything about pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
But we know they're there.
And they know they're there.
That's right. Estrogen is there. Birth control is a byproduct. So what happens, is that when you take a medication and your body processes it, it metabolizes that medication, and then when you expel that medication from going to the bathroom, right, then it becomes a metabolic, and so now it's easily ingested by the next person. How is it ingested? Well, let's face it. You take water through a waste treatment plant, they pull the sewage out of it, and then they're injecting it with a bunch of other cancerous-causing chemicals to treat it. And then they dump it back into the water reservoirs. So every water reservoir, or dump it back into the ground, which goes into groundwater contamination that can contaminate an aquifer or somebody else's well. And then when they re-pull that water supply back, the contaminants are still there. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, some municipalities dump their wastewater right into the Platte River, and downstream another municipality pulls the water right out of the Platte River. Or same with the water reservoirs. All the water reservoirs that are up in the mountains and the foothills, Denver, right? Denver owns a lot of property up on I-70. I was surprised. Denver almost owns all of Evergreen, and that's in Jefferson County.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the property that Denver owns, the water reservoirs, the water rights that they have, Douglas County, the same thing. And we talked to, somebody in Douglas County, and they're going to be 30% reusable water. 30% means they're going to go right back from the waste treatment plant right back to you.
Wow.
So has anybody sat down, have we really sat down and done an environmental impact study on what this effect would do to the human body? And have we really sat down and what's going to happen is that what my fear is, we're going to have birth defects, or we're going to have babies born that are sterile because of the contamination issue, is what I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
I really truly am.
Yeah.
And somebody's choice is going to be taken from them because of water contamination, and a parent's at that point is when I think they're going to have to release this issue, and that's when it's going to create the firestorm.
Yeah.
The firestorm meaning, why didn't we think about this logically? Or how long have we known about this before we decided to release this information? Because it's a common sense issue.
Well, just as we go through articles, just about every week, we'll see things dated, and they knew it. They had to know it.
Well, do you remember the article, the research I did? I talked about pharmaceuticals in the water supply, and one of the things, the first was, started in 2021. Germany started this, and they went to the United Nations. They wanted to bring it to the attention of the World Health Organization, WHO, and say, hey, this is what we're finding. And so they tested every major body of water, and it was, pharmaceuticals. And they have, in here, we talked to a gentleman that designs,
Mm-hmm.
water systems, water aquifers, for municipalities, not aquifers, but reservoirs.
Reservoirs. Yeah.
Right. And so they tested and said, yeah, every major over-the-counter and pharmaceutical medication was tested in the water supply. So then we got research here in the United States where they said, acetaminophen is in the water, antidepressants are in the water, And so, they're there. And it's something that reverse osmosis technology. Okay, let's go back to our quiz game. You ready? Okay. You have a reverse osmosis.
Yes.
Does the reverse osmosis remove 100% of contaminants or 99.9999% of contaminants?
Yeah, that'd be that 999.999.
A tribute to Herman Cain, rest your soul. He was a good guy. So reverse osmosis, you never want to say that, it's 100% absolute, because that's irresponsible. Nothing is an absolute. But if you can get between 98 to 99% reduction, that's a heck of a lot better in some cases.
Yeah.
In some cases, that 98 to 99% will be untraceable. And that's all depending on, the contamination level. Okay, next question. Does a reverse osmosis function properly in hard water?
No.
Right, correct. So reverse osmosis has...
And that's why you usually start there with correcting that.
Right. The reverse osmosis, they can handle function up to no more than about 5 grains per gallon. And some of them say 7 grains per gallon, but what's going to happen there, if you get above 5 and you're at that 7 grains per gallon, you're going to compromise the reverse osmosis membrane in a short period of time. A reverse osmosis membrane, what that is, it's rolled in layers. It's like think of a camera film. But then, I also use an analogy like a roll of paper towels. It's wrapped in layers. And every layer that the water goes through, the greater the reduction. Well, so hardness is calcium carbonate. And if that liquid hardness gets into the RO system and then it oxidizes and converts to a scale, then it's going to rip that membrane. And if it rips it, then you lose the nanofiltration. So soft water absolutely is what the reverse osmosis loves. Plus, with soft water, the RO recovery rate, it can produce water faster than if it was going through, water that was hard.
Right.
And with the reverse osmosis, you want that, you need that to get the organic, contamination out of the water. Other thing. Reverse osmosis membranes now today are designed to help with the total chlorine content, which is chloramine, which is a chlorine ammonia mixture. Now, we've tested total chlorine, and we found that total chlorine content shows positive on the hot water side because chloramine does not dissipate, does not go away, it stays. And that's exactly why they engineered that. Is because before, when you had strictly chlorination, chlorine would evaporate. Chlorine is a gas. It would evaporate out of the water. It wouldn't sit in the hot water heater. It would evaporate through the venting in the hot water heater itself.
Right.
So I remember back in 2015 when they started the chloramines, and I was at doing a water sample for a community in Colorado Springs, retired military community. And they were in those, what do you call those, prefab home communities, mobile home parks like. And so people got their water sample and let it sit in the counter overnight. They tell me, yeah, we took it before we went to bed. And, I got there and we were doing it first thing in the morning. And that's when I realized, holy cow, I was surprised to do the test and see the chlorine show up. And then we started testing the hot water, and it's like, here it is. So now we're breathing that in the steam.
I tell you, it's something that we're all going to have to take control of because nobody's going to do it for you. And Paul's been kind enough to offer a great deal on the point of use. Would this be the right way to say it, Paul?
Yeah,
point of use.
That's
reverse
right.
Osmosis. Okay, and $1,100 installed. You can't beat that anywhere. And again, products made here in the
right
USA.
in the USA. Yep.
And I'm telling you, we got it, and it absolutely completely changed our water quality. So I hope you'll give him a call, 303-862-5554. He'll also do the free in-home water test. He'll come out. If you've got a current system, he'll give you a checkup on that current system as well. 303-862-5554.
Turn a normal day into an adventure on an e-bike. Hi, I'm Randy Caranci, founder of E-Bike of Colorado. E-bikes are a fun way to ride around town. Just try it. Pedal assist technology flattens the steepest hills. We have 14 major brands to choose from, and our expert staff will find you the perfect bike. Come take a free test ride at E-Bike of Colorado in downtown Louisville next to the historic grain elevator. Open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Learn more at ebikeofcolorado.com. Just try it.
If you're looking for great quality eye care, look no further than Stack Optical. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and for over 20 years, Alan Stack has been taking care of our optical needs. At Stack Optical, they handle all of your eyewear needs with glasses, prescription glasses, shooting glasses, sunglasses, contacts, eyeglass repairs, and yes, even eye exams. And those eye exams are only $69. And if you've been told you've got a complicated prescription, that's just one of the specialties at Stack Optical. At Stack Optical, they have their own on-site lab, and in most cases, you can have your new glasses in just 2 to 3 days. Stack Optical, 2233 South Monaco Parkway. Free and up-close parking. Call them today, 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578, or visit stackoptical.com. And remember, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
You're listening to 560 KLZ, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Again, my name is Scott Watley. Paul Dowding is with us. We just call him Paul the Waterman. It is Water Pros, 303-862-5554. You know, Paul, as you continue to go in listeners' homes and other folks that may call you, are you finding more people like Russ you mentioned at the beginning of the show, or people are just catching on? I mean, what's spurring them? We know what Russ's deal was, but what's spurring them to call you?
I think, when people start doing their own research, but I think the other thing is, the repetitiveness of our message, is saying, hey, we're out there, and this is a topic that people can do research for themselves. I mean, this is
no secret,
and we're probably one of the very few radio programs that you have to fact check, because what we offer is freely out there for everybody. They just have to see for it for themselves, and then it's up to I think it's hard sometimes, to take in consideration, where we are today with the state of our water supply, with the quality of our water. It's something that's been overlooked. And, for example, it's still a problem, but they're not talking about it anymore, and I wonder why, and that's the microplastics found in bottled water, nanoplastics found in bottled water. And then we did an article that nanoplastics and microplastics were found in every aspect of water in the state of Colorado. And,
and if you just Google, again, if you go back Google, microplastics in bottled water, my goodness, you will have hours and hours of reading.
Well, the top 5 contaminants. What would you rate the top 5 contaminants, Scott? Since you and I were talking, so, we got PFAS, we think that has to be in there, right? The plastics and the microplastics, nanoplastics in the water would be there. Pharmaceuticals would absolutely be there. Chloramine would absolutely be there. And then, there we have, VOCs, which are other, volatile organic compounds, that can be in water. And where do they come from? They can be chemicals. They can be gases. They can, it can be from fracking. It can be, industrial waste.
Of course, AI has taken over everything, and now when you Google something, it'll give you an AI overview. I just simply put in, how many PFAS chemicals are there? Mm-hmm. Here's what AI says. There are thousands of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, chemicals known as forever chemicals. The exact number is still difficult to determine. EPA Toxicity Database lists 14,735 unique PFAS chemicals.
14,000?
735.
Are you kidding me?
No, that's what it says right here.
That jumped up fast, right? Because last time you did that was 194. Ladies and gentlemen,
EPA is working together to test 150 PFAS chemicals using new testing methods.
We really need to take seriously the quality for our health. Okay. water is everything. So the PFAS aren't just in the drinking water. It's also in the fruits and vegetables that we eat, the garden, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the zucchinis, the squash. All going to have, PFAS contamination, microplastic contamination. We have the other issues we have, let's talk about well water. Nitrates and arsenics is an issue. We have microorganisms, bacteria and viruses, fluoride in well water, just the drinking water contamination alone. And then, well water has not only hardness, but they also have ferrous iron or magnesium or sulfites.
And quite a few of your customers are well water, aren't they?
That's absolutely right. And so with well water contamination, especially on well water, we absolutely, have to handle that and do the water analysis because, like I say, water treatment isn't plug and play.
So what do you see out there with, we'll just call it your competition? Are there any things we need to warn people about? I like to throw this out every once in a while of what you may see or what they just need to pay attention to.
I don't think other companies do an in-depth test to try to, it's a cookie-cutter solution. I don't think the other, let's call them sales reps, that are trained with enough knowledge to make the right recommendation.
Most of them, it's just, to be honest, it's just a script they're kind of given
right.
to go out and just everybody's the same.
And to be honest with you, too, a lot of these quote-unquote dealers, right, the dealer network, the dealer rep, the what do you call a dealer rep? So he goes and talks to the dealership, right, from the, okay.
Sure.
A lot of them are basically, saying if you got problem water, walk away from it. Don't get involved. Because I'll tell you why. Old school water softening and technology that was done in the 80s and 90s, was done for one reason. It was done for the revenue enhancement of the dealer. So they went out and they installed filtration systems that required multiple media replacements. And so I say multiple. If you have more than one in the lifespan of a filtration unit, that's multiple. So, you have situations where you have iron content. They put in these, they call them iron busters or iron filters. See, ferrous iron is clear water iron that when it oxidizes, again, air comes in contact to it, it converts it to a solid. And so they would have the certain filtration media, either berm or green sand, and they would try to actually oxidize the water as it's coming into the home. Failed process, failed technology, just no way that worked. It was just didn't happen that fast. I was at a home out in Kingsburg the other day. He has turbidity, which is floaty dirt. And it sit now for 48 hours, and the floaty dirt still hasn't settled out of the water where it settles to the bottom where it's clear.
And what causes that?
That's just part of the groundwater contamination. It's
wow.
turbidity, floaty dirt. Colorado is a mixed bag of nuts in water quality. It's not uniform. You find that's one thing that's fun about it is that it's not all uniform. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to need an ultra filter. Okay, so back to ferrous iron. Ferrous iron is one of those things that, you need to remove that before it oxidizes. The other problem with a lot of my competitors is that when you're in well water, does it make sense to use the same dirty water during the cleaning cycle?
No.
Nope, that's what they do. There's a company we removed a system from folks that was plugging up, water pressure from the well, single tank softener. And a single tank softener, when it backwashes and it has multiple issues like hardness and iron, it's going to fail. It's not designed for that. And when you have a single tank iron filter that has to use the same dirty water to backwash, there's no way you're going to get all the iron out of the water. It's not going to happen. And so you have a filter that may reduce it and try really hard, but then what happens is that media tank, that filtration tank, all that's doing is loading up with iron, and eventually it'll choke out water flow. Because, and the other thing that you're putting at risk is a well pump, because well pumps aren't designed to pump against resistance. That's not how they're made. So you want to have the right water filtration system. So back to iron. So we design systems that, take clean water, that you have the ability to clean itself with clean water. And that's what we want. And so, ion exchange resin works really well with hardness and iron, and we recommend a dual tank water filtration system in that aspect, so it alternates back and forth. But then you can take clean water from one tank to back flush the other tank. Because, Scott, what is the detergent for a water softener?
That detergent would be sodium chloride.
Correct. So you don't want to use dirty water when you're mixing with the sodium chloride.
Right.
So if you just imagine that you're trying to dissolve the water.
So that's what most of your well customers will need.
Right.
Okay.
Dual tank water softener, you bet.
Right.
So if you try to take dirty water or hard water or iron water and dissolve that salt, what are you going to get? You're not going to get a detergent. You're going to get a bunch of sludge.
Wow. All right, now you said you start with the water softener.
Yes.
So let's walk through that a little bit. And it's according to how much water usage the home has, different for the size of it. So how many different sizes of tank, so to speak, are there?
Well, there's various sizes, but so that's an interesting question, because what's happening today in the internet is the internet companies are selling 60,000 grain water softeners, 48,000 grain water softeners. Let's talk about that real quick. A 60,000 grain water softener, Scott, is a light commercial system. So people don't realize if you have 60,000 grains, you need to have at least 35 to 40 pounds of salt used to regenerate it. Where, some single tank softeners, living in town, you only need, 9 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You see the difference?
Right.
A 60,000 grain water softener requires more water pressure and water volume to backwash. So if you put a standard residential water softening control head on 60,000 grains, you're not going to generate enough backflow to clean it properly. You're wasting your money. You need a tank that's almost 8 foot tall and 36 inches around.
Hey, man, just in the time that we've been doing the show, you've walked in a lot of homes and seen improper systems sold.
Well, when you buy something that big, it's not going to work. But what's going to happen is that you're wasting your money, because then, if resin isn't active, if water softening resin isn't used properly, it'll break down. And so, the best that people need that live in town is a 32,000 grain water softener, maybe 3/4 of a cubic foot, of resin. But that also depends on water usage, the size of the home, how many bathrooms you have, how many people live in the home, and then what your water quality is. Mm-hmm. So you have to take an individual approach. But, when you're selling something online, you have to look at the design aspect. And so a gentleman, was looking, and we were talking, and he was doing his research, which he should, which is good, because then he wants to understand what he's purchasing. And then he asked me the question, well, should I have a 60,000 grain system? And I explained to him that's overkill. And you're not gonna have enough back pressure. What I mean by back pressure is that if you're gonna have a 60,000 grain unit, instead of a 3/4 inch connection or a 1 inch connection, you need an 1.5 inch connection. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You need to have an 1.5 inch to up to 2 inches to be able to have enough water pressure, water flow to agitate and backwash that resin properly. That's what I mean. It's a light commercial unit. So now you're talking about a commercial size, control valve.
Sure.
Water softening is technical for a reason, because it's not plug and play. Mm-hmm. You want to use the right media, to solve the problem. But the other thing is you want to have the right vessel that can support, and if you have too much media and the wrong supply, vessel for it, you're wasting your money.
So you can get a couple of pieces to that puzzle correct and still make a mistake.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's one of these things where, I don't think you should buy anything over the phone, because what's going to happen is, how do they know? You got to start out with a water test, right? So some people can go online and look up your water district, and they publish the water report, and they say water hardness averages, say 15 grains. But, Commerce City Reunion, they told everybody all your water hardness is 7 grains, and it's back up to where it was in the very beginning of the development out there, 20 to 22 grains of hardness.
So when you go out, let's walk through kind of what you do, just to let people know. So
what I want to do is go out and start out with the water test, show them how hard the water is, look at the size of the home, how many people live in the home, how many people are going to be taking a shower at the same time. Remember, water flow and water pressure is not the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, and so you want to be able to size a system that can have enough water flow, right, and not infect water pressure. So then that would be the size of the unit. The size of the unit would be dictated by the size of the home, the usage, and then the water hardness. And so that's what we do.
All right. All you have to do is call 303-862-5554. Once again, Paul has offered a few things here for us. He'll do your free in-home water test. If you have a current system, he'll do a system check for you just to see if your system is operating correctly. And then he has offered us, again, a great deal on the point-of-use reverse osmosis system, exactly what we got in our house, $1,100 installed. And again, that is a terrific buy. But you got to make the call, 303-862-5554. Let's talk a little bit about, you've already mentioned you've kind of been in the outskirts here of the Denver area here, but your service area, I mean, if people are hearing this, they should call you. You may not run up to Casper, Wyoming, but you'll run around to some areas around here.
Absolutely will. I think the biggest news is, we will service those people within, an hour and a half away. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
I'll go up to the foothills and help people, in Silverthorne area. It's a belief. I don't want anybody to get taken advantage of. I don't want anybody to buy the wrong system. I don't want someone to go and think, water. Here's another thing. Water pressure is very important. And, folks that live in older homes, make sure you have a PRV valve or a pressure regulator valve, because too much water pressure and high water pressure can ruin appliances. And so that's, stuff we also see, and so we want to help people out with that. We want to make sure we set up with the right, any time that you need to do filtration outside of softening. So if you have hard water and you need to remove radon, for example, or you want to remove total chlorine content, you put those filters after a water softener, not before. We were at a home up in the foothills off of 285, and they had, they were told they had high radon in the water. And the silly thing about it is they put these carbon tanks before the water softener. So the carbon tanks just load up with a bunch of junk. And, there's no way you can do proper radon mitigation. Those radon tanks should have been after the water softener, but then the water softener wasn't sized properly. And there's nothing, you don't like to go in after the fact. And you don't want to come across like you're insulting anybody or putting anybody down.
Sure.
But, what do you do when you see a wrong situation, then you have to correct it?
Yeah.
How do you explain that so you can do it in such a way that you're not trying to insult, somebody else?
So just do it right the first time.
Right.
With Water Pros.
There you go.
All right. Paul, thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you. Is time up already?
Time is up.
Man.
Give Paul a call, 303-862-5554. Mention Water Talk. Hey, we appreciate you listening. Give him a call. Take advantage of that $1,100 point-of-use reverse osmosis system. Call him today. Leave it right here on KLZ 560.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Crawford Broadcasting, the station, management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.